imagine this scenario. You're meeting with a prospect, somebody that wants to work with you, and the conversation seems to be going great. Everything seems to be positive. And by the end of the conversation, they might even say that they're ready to work with you, or maybe they just need some time to think about it. But then it goes weeks without you hearing anything, and then the contact just fizzles out. What happened? They seemed positive. They seemed like they were ready to go, and then nothing happened. The sale didn't close, and you didn't move anywhere with the prospect. What is this phenomenon, and how do we solve it? So today I'm going to be talking about positive to payment, my process for getting credit cards once prospects like you. I'm going to be going over this on YouTube, so whether you are listening to this on the podcast or if you are watching the YouTube video along with me, try and follow along, and we're going to talk about how to help you get through the sales process and get credit cards, get the sale, and actually close the deal when it already feels like it's been closed and like it should have been closed a long time ago. So I made this document a while ago when I was struggling with this in my beginning years of doing sales. One thing that I experienced a lot was I was doing cold calls or cold DMs, and then I would meet with contacts and they would say, hey, everything's good to go. We're ready to go. We just need some time to think. Or they might really like you, but they haven't actually paid you yet. So I made this document, my positive to payment document, which includes tips for anyone selling anything cold from one human being to another. We're going to go over all of the biggest parts of selling, the pieces of the relationship process that I think are most important to get people to close. And by the end of the video, I'm going to have a little bit of offer for everybody that is listening or watching. So PRE, perceived relationship equity. Now, when I'm talking about this, I'm going to mention this a few times. This is how much equity you have with a relationship with somebody. In every scenario, whenever you're working with somebody, you have a give to ask ratio. And one of the biggest problems that people have whenever they're doing sales is they ask too soon. They ask when they haven't given enough, aka have enough equity in that person, and they try to pull out of that relationship before they've actually given in. One example that my band director gave me a long time ago was whenever you are leading people, you need to make deposits in them first. You need to deposit, quote unquote, saying good things, giving them value, complimenting them, making them feel heard, making them feel understood before you can take away, before you can ask, before you can make a withdrawal. It's just like a bank account, right? You can't withdraw from an empty bank account. You can't pour from an empty cup. So make sure whenever you are working with people, you are pouring into them first to increase your PRE. And this is going to make it a lot easier to get people from the payment, from the positive section to the payment part of your sales process. And unless every person you're talking to is incredibly desperate for your type of services, then PRE will always be a factor. Sometimes it's not if you're working with people maybe in ads, or you're meeting people that have been looking for your services and have been needing it for a long time and they feel like it's a call from the universe that you showed up in their life, then this is usually going to be a factor. People work with people that they like, which means the sales process is really a game of how fast can I get this person to like me. You're trying to build relationship equity and get the person to like you before you even talk about the product. So the relationship equity is a really big deal. Some people will say, oh, but if you have a great offer, then they'll just say yes. But that's not true. No matter how good of an offer you have, if you're coming in cold, most people are inherently not going to trust you. That's why people book appointments, because even with a great offer, they want to feel safe and secure before paying you anything. That's the purpose of appointment setting. So how can we increase our perceived relationship equity and the chances that they'll buy without a sales appointment, coming in as a complete stranger? So let's go into this. And before we dive in, let's talk about why we want to be increasing our equity rather than just giving them a better offer, or why we're not going to approach it from this typical sales objections kind of frame. A lot of people teaching sales will talk about objection handling and, hey, if they say X, then say XYZ. So why are we talking about relationship equity? Why aren't we talking about, scripts and everything? The way I approach sales is slightly more unconventional than other people do. But I personally have found more success in it, and I've seen a lot of other people find more success in it. And this approach is personalized, relationship-based sales, all right? If you're meeting with people and you're selling them based off of a script, they're going to feel like they're just being read a script, which is never a good way to introduce yourself to somebody is with a scripted, hey, how are you doing? How's the weather? This is our product, XYZ, right? We want to actually build a relationship with these complete strangers and see if we can actually solve their problem. Because if they feel like we can solve their problem, then they'll be more likely to work with us. The two biggest factors that will make an impact throughout each step of the sales process are clarity and commitment. Clarity means that people will not pay you unless they, 1, understand they have a problem, 2, trust you to fix it, and then 3, have a way to pay you, which seems like an obvious point, but you'd be surprised how many people skip this step. When we say understand that they have a problem, this is the first step in the closer framework, a lot of sales frameworks, where people say that you need to ask them questions, you need to get an understanding of their past, and this is typically what we already go through on the sales call. So clarity and commitment are kind of our prerequisites to the positive to payment process. It means you already talked to these people, so typically you've already had this clarity moment, but if you haven't, you need to make sure that they understand that they have a problem. The second step is trusting you to fix it. This is the second step of clarity. And the biggest part of this is making sure they understand how you're going to solve this problem. Imagine you get on a sales call with somebody and you say, my website is bad and I need a better looking website. And they say, we can fix that for you. And that's it. Well, that doesn't really help you. You don't know exactly how they're going to fix it. You don't know if they're going to use new graphics or new fonts or new colors, or if they have a team of designers to give you trust that they're actually going to be able to build you a better looking website. How are they going to trust you to fix it if they don't know how you're going to do it? Which is why transparency is a really big deal whenever you are in sales. You need to be able to describe to people how you are going to solve their problems, which is why I'm typically not a huge fan of just hiring random salespeople, because they usually don't understand the problem and they don't understand the solution well enough to speak to it. It's why typically founders and high-level execs will usually do a better job of sales, because they're the ones that made the solution, than people that were just hired on and they've been trained for 2 weeks on how to sell, and that's it. They don't actually know how to speak to the problem and the solution. And this is a big deal in getting your clients to trust you to fix their problem. Step 3 is having a way to pay you. Obviously, they need to have a way to pay you, whether it's through a payment link, an invoice, a Stripe link, or a credit card reader. I remember a story from Alex Hormozy. He said there was a time where he pulled into this gas station, right? And this kid came up to his car with a cologne and said, hey, I'm selling this cologne. Do you want to smell it? And you can buy it. And he wasn't really interested. And then the guy started selling them. And Alex Hormozy was like, okay, fine, whatever, I'll smell it. And it smelled fine. And then he said, okay, sure, I'll take it. And then, so again, positive. This kid said he wanted to sell his cologne. Alex Hormozy said that he was ready to take it. This is our positive moment. The kid immediately says, oh, well, I need to go get the credit card reader from my partner. I'll be right back. So Alex Hormozy is getting his gas pumped and waiting there for a couple of minutes. This kid doesn't have a credit card reader, and then he just drives off because there's no way for him to pay. Now, the kid might have been confused and said, oh, well, this was a positive situation. Why didn't he wait? Why didn't we actually make the sale? But this is what happens in sales most of the time. Someone has a positive situation, a positive engagement with somebody, and a good reaction at the end of it, and then they don't move forward because they either don't understand they have a problem, they don't trust you, or they don't have a way to pay you. So this is the importance of making sure the person that you're trying to sell has a way to pay you. As soon as you get that positive reinforcement, you need to make sure they know exactly how to close themselves, or you need to. So either it needs to be really clear that they need to give you their ACH and routing numbers, or they need to have a payment link immediately, or a way to buy on your website. So the software side of this, which usually people are working with payment links like Stripe or invoicing, that needs to happen immediately. You need to make sure that they have an invoice, that they have a payment link, that they have some way to pay you as soon as they have a positive reaction with you, because at that moment, they are ready to work with you. And if they don't have a way to pay you, that's going to be a roadblock moving forward. And commitment. The second part of this is making sure that there are some sort of actions that they take with you that they won't take with other people that they talk to. So you can honestly equate a lot of sales to dating, which is always really interesting. Let's say you're talking to somebody, you're trying to get them to go out with you and everything. And maybe you have good conversation, they find you attractive, everything seems like it's going well, but they haven't given you their number yet, right? Now, for this, the number is kind of a way to pay you, but also giving somebody your number is a sign of commitment. It's a sign of, okay, I trust you well enough. I'm going to give you this and we can start working together. Or in the dating sense, we can go on a date, right? The more commitment you get from somebody, the higher likelihood that they're going to close is. And just like in every other relationship, the more somebody has poured into you and the more commitment they have into investing into what they've got with you, then the higher chance they have of actually paying you. So you want to make sure that your customers are taking some sort of actions with you that they don't take with other people, like whether it's signing up for a lead magnet or watching a video or more emails back and forth, right? This is commonly referred to as like an engagement score. We can score our clients based on how engaged they are with us, and that's going to give us a better understanding of if they're going to work with us or not. So step one of this process, to get them to understand their problem. Step two is that they need to trust you to fix it. And step three is payment, right? So we went over the most important parts of this in this quick video. And the last thing I'm going to do is go over a couple of examples throughout the rest of the document that you can refer back to whenever you're not listening to this or not watching this video. So you need to get them to understand their problem, and this applies to DMs, appointments, cold calls, cold emails, etc. Again, just to recap, usually this is through information and admittance. So this changes the belief from that they don't have a problem to they do. And sometimes you can do this just through asking good questions, right? You can ask them, hey, you understand you have got to get this fixed, right? And the prospect can say, right. Or you can ask them, you currently don't have any other ways to achieve this besides me? And they say, sure, basically. And you can basically get them to move to that place of admittance, to finally asking a question like, so to achieve X goal, would it be reasonable to say that working with me/us is kind of your best option right now? Kind of is kind of a soft sell to make sure that they come to the conclusion themselves. And then they'll say, yes, then you can move forward. In summary, for step two, that they need to trust you to fix it. If they've just met you, then the chances are that they don't trust you, obviously, like we talked about. And this is one of the biggest parts of this. We need to make sure, in order to get them to payment, that they have some trust with us. So one of the big ways that we can do this is by asking them more questions. All right, so ask them like, hey, do you have any more questions before we get this taken care of? And if they don't trust you, then they could say, I don't know, I'll have to look it over, or anything vague. And then if they, say they need to look it over, then you can insert something like a short about you statement, a couple of jokes. You kind of have to be a little bit charismatic. This is kind of like when you ask a girl for her number and then she says no, or maybe, or I don't know if I trust you yet. This is where you got to tell jokes. You got to be charismatic. You have to work with them. And maybe even sometimes you can mention testimonials, right? So same way, again, like I've said, sales and dating are almost identical. And you can just kind of go into your spiel. And then after you finish your spiel, then they'll usually trust you. Then the last thing that I'm going to share with the payment process. So like we said, we already talked about the fact that them having a way to pay is one of the most important parts of this process. And the second part of payment is you want to try and get them to go through payment processes live. If you're meeting with these people live on the phone or on a Zoom call or even one-on-one in person, then you need to get them to do it right now in the moment, because you don't want to be in a high pressure sales situation. But if it feels high pressure, then you haven't sold them enough already. You haven't actually closed the deal. If they're already in for it, and they're already happy to work with you, they already trust you, they already understand their problem, then you say, hey, here's the payment link. Let's go ahead and get that taken care of. Then they'll say, okay, cool, let's do it. And then they do it. If not, then sometimes you can still close deals, not getting the payment live. That's not the end of the world. But I would usually send them a link, stay on the call or stay with them in person, and then collect your payment. The last little piece of advice is after they pay, reinforce their decision by sending them free goodies like more content, or give them extra encouragement that you are excited about their growth. What you do after somebody pays is equally as important as what happens beforehand. Arguably more important, because people have buyer's remorse and you need to make sure that they feel confident in saying yes, that they're working with you. You'll notice that anytime you meet with somebody, The best types of networkers will always send a message afterwards, say, hey, it was great meeting with you. Let's get together, soon. So you want to give them positive reinforcement after they pay. I have a quote in here saying, getting positive reactions means absolutely nothing unless you can turn it into payment. This is where most people fail and where you hopefully won't. So if you have any more questions regarding sales or this video specifically, feel free to subscribe, follow the podcast. You can also shoot me a DM on Instagram at RealAndrewGeorge. This has been a little bit of a short and unorthodox episode. I don't do a lot of docuseries like this, but we'll be going over a few more things like this. And I wanted to just share this for you guys because I've used this process to help me get through sales. And I want to help you grow your business as well. So if you have any questions, leave a comment. Feel free to like, follow, subscribe, rate the podcast, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Thanks.